Hello everybody, this is your World Pokemon Federation Delta Division Week 1 Power Rankings, hosted by yours truly. Um, some notes before, in case you don't know what Power Rankings are, just ranking the coaches 1 to 16, 16 being the worst, 1 being the best, based off of how they played. This has nothing to do with the player skill level, it just bases off how they play. Like Will, I don't necessarily think he is the 16th worst coach in the entire league, but off of how he played, off of prep, I put him down here for reasons we will get to when we get there. So, second off, um, the Pokemon you see on the left side are his team. Uh, the ones that have a black Pokeball are the ones that he brought. So I'd not post his matchup on here because this already took me 3 hours and it would take me 4 hours. It wouldn't really take me that much longer because I just copy and paste. But if I put his opponent's team, it just would take me a lot more time, and I could just say them because I have them right in front of me. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I have Will at number 16. Now he faced off against Sableye 21, who has a team that is very scary. It consists of like Iron Valiant, Jirachi, Ursaluna, great core there, and then it has like Spinners and Serena. Then his Terra was Glastrier. So very scary Pokemon. So when they played, Sableye ended up bringing Valiant, Jirachi, Ursaluna. Then he brought Chandelure. He brought Sandslash. And then I forget his last. I believe it was it was Sandslash. Wait, what's her Sandslash? It was a Araquanid Sandslash, I believe. Yeah, that's correct. That was the 6. So first off, I think the team that Will brought. I don't want to talk about the opponents too much because I'll get to that when we get to that person. But I would say that Will struggled because his game plan didn't work out. And what I mean by that is he had Screens lead Glamora, and it got off a light screen. It got off a light screen into a it got off a reflect. Sorry, it got off a reflect into Araquanid turn 1, and then Araquanid liquidated, and then he set up. He went for Mortal Spin, and Araquanid got the webs up, and because the opponent didn't bring Jirachi, so which I was very surprised about, because we'll get to that when we go to Sableye, but anyway, so he gets a free Mortal Spin off, and after that, it's like I forget what he goes. I forget what Sableye goes. I believe he goes into Overquill, perhaps. I forget. Yeah, I think it's Overquill because that's the only one you could go. So yeah, then he sets up he mementos with Glamora, and he gets in Ogerpon on it was Overquill, and he immediately sets up a Swords Dance, and this is like turn 5. He's just going balls to the wall with Ogerpon. It's a Swords Dance Trailblaze, and he does it immediately, and I think that he still had like ways to beat it at this point. Screens were only around at this point for like 3 more turns, maybe. I think screens were an okay break. Like being able to check Ursaluna, like actually, because if you look at the monster brought, he doesn't really check Ursaluna, but he offensively beats it. But if it gets in on Glamora, it gets in on even Scizor. It can be like Assault Vest, which is what it should be, and is what it was. It was Assault Vest. It makes Landorus's and Iron Bundle's jobs harder. So Screens makes it a lot easier to handle, and Valiant especially also is a huge threat to this team, but you have Scizor. So he just sets up early, and it doesn't work. Like, he gets the +2, he takes a Poison Jab, he's at like 60%. And then he Trailblazes on a switch into Chandelure, and then he Ivy Cudgels into Sandslash, and then Booster Valiant comes in and revenges it, and basically the game's over at that point. You're down 5-4, but you have no way of like really doing anything. At this point, you have to be able to break with Landorus, because he brought Scarf or Shifu, and it was Akaberry, Scizor, Boots bundle, and then Landorus was Life Orb. I think 4 attacks, Grass Knot, Earth Power, stuff. I forget exactly what it was, but Sludge Wave. I think it had Rock Slide last. Yeah, but he ended up bringing this in so early that Ogerpon could not sweep yet. It couldn't. If he could have Trailblazed twice, which is realistically the only way you're going to be able to get around the Iron Valiant revenging you, you have to either A, force the Iron Valiant in, or B, just get 2 Trailblazes up. And it's not easier to force the Valiant in before, because it just is. But he didn't try that. He just sacked it like basically immediately, and he had no win con at that point. On the Valiant, he just went Scizor. I made a solid play with U-turn. He played his Scizor really well this game. Like, he basically U-turned every time Scizor was in, and it forced something out. And it like brought in like Overquill, but it didn't do anything. So then he went Landorus and Earth Power, and Earth Power into Grass Knot didn't kill Ursaluna, because he just goes hard Ursaluna against Assault Vest, and killed Lando, and at that point the game was just over. He had no way to break through Overquill and Valiant, and Scarf Chandelure, I imagine it was. I think it was Scarf Chandelure. I did look, but I forget. I believe it was Scarf Chandelure. Yeah, it's like... And then he had, what was it? He had Vacuum Wave on the Iron Valiant, which was a deal breaker, into the bundle. So basically, he got out prepped, I believe. I think that Will didn't, he had a game plan and it didn't work, and he had no other way. He had no other way of winning at that point. He committed to Ogerpon winning, but then he committed to it so early it couldn't win, and then yeah, that was it. I mean, I think Booster Valiant made perfect sense. Like, I know Will didn't expect Booster Valiant, but I feel like it's obvious to bring it into an Ogerpon that can sweep you if it gets set up. That does sweep him if it gets set up. To be fair, though, I expected a Babiri Berry on the Valiant, but it didn't come. And then later on, like, in case he had any win con, Araquanid came back in and set webs up, and he had Scarf for Shifu, so at that point that was useless. And that was basically it. Like, at that point it was basically over. What he could have done differently was just bring Comfey for one, because he sat like 4 Pokemon. I think 3 or 4 Mons died to Valiant, and Comfey would have solved all of these problems. Well, not all of them necessarily, but it would have helped with Valiant incredibly, because he just didn't have anything. Like, he didn't bring anything that could beat Valiant other than Scizor, but he just switches on Scizor, and Scizor can't come hard in. It can come in one time. It can come in one time, and that's it. And you don't want Scizor taking damage. I think Akaberry wasn't a bad idea, but I think Choice Banded was likely better, because Bullet Punch can end game. Like, if you can get damage off into Chandelure, it can end game. And that would have made his U-turns be hitting way harder into Overquill. So, I think the biggest issue was that he went his win con too early, and it didn't sweep, and he had no other way of winning. And it really just boils down to that. I don't think that necessarily happens every time. I think his matchup was pretty tough, probably bad even. I think he brought the right 6. I mean, probably. I think the only other things were, like, again, Comfey. I think Comfey could have came, but over what? Like, the only thing he could really come over was probably just Landorus, but Landorus was really good in this matchup too. But that's probably what it had to come over, just because I don't know what else, really. But I don't think Will's a bad player. I think he'll bounce back. I specifically wanted to watch Will's match, actually. That was the one I, like, wanted to see. Just see how he played. I like Will. I just don't think he played this game very well. I don't think he necessarily brought the right team. I don't think he necessarily brought the right sets. But it's not going to happen every week. He'll bounce back. I'm sure of it. So, now we're at who I like to call an Arc Narc. Why do I call him that? I don't know. It just looks funny. I hope that's something I can say. I think it is. I looked it up and it wasn't like anything. Anyway, um, he's at my number 15. Not quite last, but I believe that he kind of got the same. Nah, it was way different than Will's. This was just a game of him predicting like basically every turn, and it didn't work a single time. Like, so Raging Bolt got literally no value. First off, he led Azelf, which I think wait, or I think it was lead Ogre Pawn. I forget. Well, first off, he played Volume, who good player, I'm sure. I don't know anything about Volume, but nonetheless, Volume has a pretty good team. Because it's like a Blaziken, Greninja, Clefable, Gliscor stuff, and has like Terra Sinistra and like Lycanroc. It's a very good team, very scary. But like I believe the lead was Ogerpon Greninja, so he gets the lead right, and it is Scarf Ogerpon in this matchup. It was Scarf Ogerpon, Booster, Raging Bolt, Terra Ghost, just leftovers Vaporeon, Assault Vest, Great Tusk, Banded Cinderace, and Screens Azelf. Good sets. I think he brought the right six, and I think he brought the right six. I think he had some good sets even. I think Scarf Ogerpon was a definite bring. I think Raging Bolt, definite bring. Assault Vest, Great Tusk, it's okay. I probably would not have brought that, to be fair. But I don't think it's a bad set necessarily. Like, I think he brought good sets. Banded Cinderace was definitely good. It just, he kept predicting. So, again, on lead, he had Ogerpon, Greninja. I believe he just U-turns turn 1. I don't recall. But naturally, I assume he U-turns turn... No, I think he... No. I'm pretty sure he just Ivy Cudgels initially, right into Clefable. I'm pretty sure what happens. Yeah, that's definitely what happens. He just Ivy Cudgels turn 1 into Clef. And he clicks it. And then... what happens? He clicks Thunder Wave into Azelf, but he misses. The opponent clicks Thunder Wave into Azelf and misses. So then Azelf gets a screen up, and it gets light screen up, I believe. No, it gets reflect up, I think. Did he get light screen or reflect up? I forget. He got a screen up, and then Clef goes for Para again, and he gets the Para on the second one and knocks off the Azelf, which is pretty big because he doesn't have. It was definitely a reflect because he didn't have a light screen up at that point. So Raging Bolt can't necessarily come in too much on Clef. It could take like 60%, and which he does. He does go hard Raging Bolt. I think because he has shown Knock. You have to assume he has Recovery, and he has shown Thunder Wave. He was just kind of hoping he wasn't Moonblast. Bless. Yeah, he goes Raging Bolt on a Moonblast, hard on a Moonblast, and takes like 60%. He Calm Minds and barely lives. But then he goes for Dragon Pulse, predicting Gliscor, which I understand that, and ironically enough, I would have gone Gliscor there. I would have gotten caught by that Dragon Pulse, but Volume didn't, and that was really bad, because Raging Bolt gets 0 value in a matchup. It hits everything, and it's just really good. Like, Thunderclap is very good in the Greninja and Blaziken. Tentacruel, he has Tentacruel. Like, it's very good. And it got literally no value. And that became really problematic because next he brings in his Cinderace, and he clicks Pyro Ball instead of Gunk Shot, and he gets paralyzed. And at that point, the game is basically over. Like, you have 2 Mons paralyzed, Raging Bolt's dead. Your only win con is Ivy Cudgeling late, but there's a Bronzong. So, yeah, I think he just made too many predictions, and he got back too early. Like, Terra Ghost Shadow Ball. It was Terra Ghost Shadow Ball. Very good set. I agree, that was the set. But I think he also was forced to Terra Vaporeon very early. And you probably want to Terra that on Blaziken, because you can Terra on the close combat and then just surf it and kill it. Unless he predicts the Terra, obviously. But then Vaporeon's also Terra. I have to check one moment. Oh wait, looking at the wrong team. Vaporeon is also Terra. I can't find it. Oh. Never, I don't know. Vaporeon was, I think, I don't know. He was another Terra. So, it forces Blaziken to predict your Terra at worst. And then, but after everything got paralyzed, later on, it's Air Balloon on Blaziken, it just sets up and wins. Well, it sets up, breaks his team. Greninja, Cinderace comes in and sucker punches it, but it's too late at that point. He comes down to Ogerpon and Cinderace, and he just can't do it. So, I think he made way too many early game predictions that didn't work, and I don't necessarily blame him for that, but I have to blame him for that because it really cost him. The Raging Bolt, I understand. I would have gotten caught by that, but unfortunately Volume didn't. He just stayed in with his Clef, and he would have taken like a lot. I don't know how much damage, but that was Fizz Def Clef, I think. That would have taken a lot. I don't know if it would have died, but honestly, it would have been probably pretty close to dying. So, it's very unfortunate that he just stayed in with Clef. Because if you go on hard Gliscor, you're faster and just get Earthquake and one-shot it. Like, and Raging Bull gets no value in that world. So I understand the Dragon Pulse play. I think that not Gunk Shotting into Clef, though, was a pretty bad play. Because at this point, apparently he doesn't care about his Clef. He stayed in on Raging Bolt. He's probably just going to stay in again if he thinks he lives. The only thing that's going to kill him is a a Choice Banded Gunk Shot. That's the only thing. I imagine a Gunk Shot, because he was still at full. Like, he was at full with Clef. A normal Gunk Shot's not going to kill. And he wants to Thunder Wave into Cinderace. So at that point, I think you just click Gunk Shot. You're banded. Just kill the Clef. At that point, you would still have a Cinderace at that point, which is huge. Yeah, just early game predictions killed him. No win con outside of Scarf Ogerpon, and then obviously the Raging Bolt was a win con, but it died immediately. And I think that was really the killer. Just Raging Bolt dying so early with no value really set him back a lot. I think he can bounce back. Good team, very scary team. Next coach, Fisturium. I don't have his fucking logo. I don't know where it's at. I don't know what it is. Note that this Deoxys is not Deoxys regular. This is a Deoxys. I don't think the other ones had it. Yeah. Because I don't have the Therian forms, and I don't have other forms like Deoxys. So, this Deoxys was speed. This one was speed. He didn't bring it, so it didn't matter. But, he didn't bring... So, first off, he played a very hard, just hard Sun team. He played Lars with Gouging Fire, Meowscarada, Walking Wake. He had Torkoal, Slitherwing, like hard Sun. Florges, I also like a secondary option of like Florges Scarm. So yeah, very scary team. I mean, Sun's always scary to play, and I don't think he necessarily brought the wrong Mons, probably, but I think he brought the wrong sets. Like, I think these were probably the best 6, right? But I think that Vileplume was a very obvious Chlorophyll bring for me. Like, you're playing a hard Sun team that doesn't have a route outside of Sun. Bring Chlorophyll. I genuinely don't understand why it wasn't. This one gets Chlorophyll, right? I'm very certain this Pokemon gets Chlorophyll. Like, that's how surprised I was that it's not Chlorophyll Vileplume. Yeah, it gets Chlorophyll. It's his main ability. That's what I thought. I had to make sure, because I was like, what if I was wrong? But yeah, I don't know why it wasn't Chlorophyll Vileplume, just offensive Vileplume. It didn't end up defensively tanking anything. And like, I think he was Spadef on Corv. Because it took like 40% from Ice, Triple Axle from Meowscarada. And I was like, wow, that did a lot of damage. But yeah. On lead, I forget what they led. I believe it was Garchomp Torkoal. It was definitely Garchomp Torkoal. And he switches out into... He switched into Earthquake. He went to Slitherwing, I believe, on Earthquake. And then... I forget what after. I think he took Fire Blast and then, like, whisked the Garchomp. Which, I mean, good Garchomp set. Earthquake, Fire Blast, I'm assuming Rocks. I'm not sure what your last is. Maybe Draco. I'm assuming you were a hazard at that point. But he lets it get whisked early, and it's Habanberry. Like, the sets where he was Akaberry Core. The Volcania was choice banded, which I thought was a fun option, but probably not a good option realistically. Though to be fair, it actually would have put in work, or killed the most important Pokemon. He had an opportunity early. It was like early game. He had Volcanion in on Walking Wake, and Walking Wake, the Walking Wake was Assault Vest, but obviously Mephisto Dream didn't know that. But the Walking Wake was Assault Vest, and was always going to stay in. And even if it wasn't Assault Vest, he was always going to stay in a Draco. I think there you had to just take the Explosion kill. Walking Wake is the biggest threat to your team. You do not have much for it. You have one Pokemon to kill it. Or maybe two. You might have two Pokemon to kill it. In Garchomp and Darkrai. I didn't see your Garchomp last move. Or moves. But yeah, like, that's a very clear opportunity to kill the biggest threat to your team, and he didn't do it. And it ended up really costing him, because Walking Wake got, like, it killed Vileplume. I believe it killed Vileplume. Maybe it didn't. But I know it killed Garchomp. I know it killed Corv. And it weakened Volcanion a lot. And, like, it just became really problematic late. He also got pretty lucky with Darkrai. He flinched into crit the Gouging Fire. And so, like, the game was only like it was a 1-0. It was 2-0. But, like, it could have been way worse. It could have been like a 3-0 or 4-0. If the Gouging Fire didn't get flinched first and then crit. But hey, win con, I guess. But I think the sets just should have been different. I don't think the Pokemon were wrong. I definitely don't think the Pokemon were wrong. I think you brought the right 6. But like, you have to be like a Scarf Darkrai, a Scarf Chomp. You have to have something that can outpace the Sunsetters. Which, to be fair, Walking Wake was plus special attack. It wasn't even plus speed, but which would have been better for you, by the way. That's the whole point. Is that would have been better for you, because you would have outsped with Scarf Chomp or Scarf Darkrai, etc., etc. He ended up bringing Bulk Up, Annihilate, which came close to winning in the end. It was Bulk Up, Rage Fist, Rest Sleep Talk. Good set. He does not have a Ghost immunity, and he didn't really have a Ghost Resist either. So, I mean, it just makes sense. But he let Choice Banded Rhydon. Yeah, that's what killed up Vileplume. Like, he just, I don't know. He also sacked Corviknight to a Hydro Steam when he had Vileplume in. I thought that was like crazy too, because you needed Corviknight. Like, you had to have Corviknight at that point because you needed a way to actually stop Earthquakes from Rhydon and to stop Meowscarada. Like, you had to have Corviknight at that point, I think. I think you just stay in. He expected a Draco because Draco killed. But then he Hydro Steams because his opponent, Lars, expected a Terra into Terra Fairy. And I think that's a situation of just, you have to understand what your opponent expects. So A, he probably expected Chlorophyll, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think you still should have been there. But there, his opponent expected him to Terra Fairy, and I think it's just Moonblast. So I think he would have Moonblasted. If not, he would have just Terra Blasted, either one. So his opponent expected a Terra, and that's why he didn't Draco, he just Hydro Steamed. You have to understand that as yourself at that point. It was a really cool set. It was a Terra Water Rindo Berry, but he didn't use it. Like, I think that only matters if you're King Chlorophyll. I do not understand why you weren't Chlorophyll. It could have been a Misgen. I don't know. I don't think it matters. Well, it definitely matters, because I think it just really should have been Chlorophyll Vileplume. He could have gotten a Sleep Off early. And, like, he was pretty prepared for... He was a lot more prepared for Gouging Fire than, like... Not necessarily that he should have been. Like, it's a big threat. Like, Habanberry and Akaberry on Corv and Garchomp. Garchomp made a lot of sense being Habanberry. I like that. The Gouging Fire didn't even have a dragon move though, but I think that he definitely brought the right six. I think he definitely brought a couple right sets. Like I'm not sure what the Dark Right was. I know it was Life Orb, Dark Pulse. I believe it was Life Orb. Like I like the Annihilate. I definitely think that's the right Annihilate. But sacking Corviknight, I couldn't get behind because you just needed it. You had to have it, really. Vileplume not being Chlorophyll, big deal. And Volcanion just not killing Walking Wake, the biggest threat to your team, when it had the opportunity. I think that was a killer too. Basically lost you the game. I think he can clean it up, probably. But just need to get his prep down. Like, this was mostly a prep issue. This was not necessarily a play issue. Like, it came down close. He had a chance in the end. If you got, like, if you got some good rolls into Rhydon, he needed, like, +1 bulk up. And, like, +2 bulk up to live, 2 Earthquakes, and then he needed, like, good rest turns. Like, he would have needed some luck. Not even, like, too much luck, though. It just would have been some luck, you know? Yeah. I don't think he played awful, but I think that everyone else above him just played better or prepped better. Which gets me into CB Marcus, who, honestly, I think this was pretty unfortunate. Like, this one, I think, was the first one where I'm like, these are getting to the real, like, different things. Anyway, GT's team, he played against Gravy. He played against Gravy. Who, scary team, also. Like, everyone's teams are, like, decent at worst. But he has Chiempao, Landorus Therian, Primarina, Terrapagos, Iron Hands, he had Terra Espeon. Like, big threats. Lots of big threats. And I think that he also had a Swalot, which we'll get into, but I think, and this Thundurus is not this Thundurus, it's Thundurus Therian. I just didn't have the spray. So, first issue, his Fiona's team, he brought it. It's because he expected Primarina, and it also helped with, like, Espeon to an extent. Like, it just helped with his special attackers. But it was mostly a Primarina answer, because he doesn't, like, look at his team, he doesn't have much. He really doesn't. But you also look at the team, it doesn't really have anything for Chiempao. Like, he was Yachi Pult, he was lead Iron Moth, Yachi Pult, Assault Vest Fion, just standard Ogre, Colbert Necrozma, which I thought was actually a pretty good bring, and then Fairy Feather, Sylveon with, like, Terra Fairy, Hyper Voice, Quick Attack, stuff like that. I don't think sets were bad. I think his lead really got fucked up because Gravy brought Swalot. It actually seriously messed up his lead. Because he wanted T-Spikes up, which were valid. I mean, that would have been good into Terrapagos being the biggest one. But it would help Iron Hands. It would have helped with Terrapagos. But, like, it got messed up early because he led Earthquake Swalot and then went into Assault Vest Iron Hands, took a Psychic, and then he just sacked off Swalot the next turn and no T-Spikes. And all that Iron Moth did was, like, get a Swalot low, which just kind of doesn't matter because it's a Swalot, and then get, like, 35-40% off into Iron Hands, which was bad. I mean, but that's mostly just because his opponent brought Swalot. Like, you can't expect that. You really can't. But yeah, and then, so he's basically playing he sacked his lead that didn't get the value that he wanted, and then he also has a Fion that didn't get any value that you needed because he didn't bring the Pokemon you expected. So you're basically playing a 4-6 game. Well, 4-5 game, because at this point Swalot's dead, but a 4-6 game, which is already bad enough, but when you're playing a 4-6 game and your opponent has Chiempao Terrapagos, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I mean, it's really tough at that point. Um, yeah, like, all he had for Chi and Pao too, like, he had no switch in. He had no switch in. But to be fair, switches for Chi and Pao really don't exist much. Um, but yeah, like, he brings in Iron Hands, and how did the crossbow? Oh, and his opponent brought Duraludon, which ended up being a huge threat, like, surprisingly. The opponent's set was Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, Dragon Tail, Body Press, which is walled by Sylveon, but he didn't know. He never revealed Body Press, so it ended up being an issue because he didn't know it was Body Press. So he couldn't just go Sylveon and take a Flash Cannon or something like that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, the mon ended up like coming in and paralyzing Necrozma, I think it paralyzed Fion too, and just Dragon Tailed them both. And like Necrozma got down to like 40-30% very early, way earlier than you needed. So there goes your Chi and Pao check. And even though like after he finally, because on one of the Dragon Tails he rolled in Pult, he sacked on, or did he sack off Duraludon? I think he just sacked off Duraludon. Got an Iron Hands, and he went to sack Necrozma, and then he Supercell slams, but then his opponent heavy slams, and Necrozma lives. Because he freaking choked a kill, which was almost game choking, might I add, but because it let Necrozma get up back to like full HP, before the Iron Hands died. Like, he was literally full HP, when otherwise the Necrozma was dead. So that forced the opponent to go into, oh, what was it? Did he go? I do not recall what he went. I think he just went, I don't know. He went something and got parried the next turn. No, he went Virizion. He went Virizion and Terra ghosted and didn't get parried. But, and then he goes for a physical Photon and it's like 60%. So, you got insane value over Necrozma that was supposed to be dead. And it actually almost brought the game back. Because, but then you get full parried on the next Terra Blast. So that you die. You bring in, forget what, but basically, he needed value out of Pokemon, and he just didn't get it. Like, he needed not see Swalot, he needed to see Primarina. Like, if that was Primarina instead of Swalot, this entire game has changed. Entire game. I would probably favor him in that case, but he brings it back close. It's just, and it comes down to what the GM power is, whether it's Ice Shard or Sucker, and it ends up being Sucker, and he loses the game. It's really tragic. He did a fine job bringing it back. It was really tough. He started down low. He expected the wrong things. Yeah, and that's what it really came down to. He just expected the wrong things. I will say that he probably just should have been Chople Berry King Gambit instead of Fion. But I understand why you're not. You're really going to struggle with Primarina at that point. You have no Moonblast weapon. Not one. Because Iron Moth is a lead, so you have no Moonblast switch at that point. So, I understand why you wouldn't, and just with Pult being annoying for it, or Primarina coming in on Pult, it's like really tough. So, I think this was a lot more of your game plan getting messed up early, and instead of like Will, his game plan got messed up, and he just lost. He just lost. This one, he still had an out. It was just, unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. Next, we get It's Danny Mac, who I would not have expected to be this low, but unfortunately, he got beat by Palafin. And that was really it. He just got beat by Palafin. You see the 6 that he brought. He played against Wreck-It Mike, who has Palafin, Deoxys Defense, Chi-Yu, Iron Treads, Ninetales, like Terra Kilowattrel, Como, big scary team, but if you look at Mac's team, he has zero good answers to Palafin. Like, he's forced to bring like fake crap. Like he's forced to bring Lapras. He's forced to bring like Iron Defense Torterra or some shit like that. Or like Wisp Mimikyu. I would have brought Wisp Mimikyu because I think that's the only way you genuinely gonna beat Palafin. I was very surprised about no Excadrill because Mike's ground resist are Kilowattrel, Masquerain, and Lurantis. And I actually did expect Lurantis. I expected Lurantis in this matchup, but he didn't bring it. So, you see the stick that he did bring. I think the biggest issue are the sets. The sets were he was Mirror Herb Lottie. He was Assault Vest Keldeo, which I really liked here. It was really good for Chiyu. Chiyu like basically wasn't gonna do anything in this matchup unless it was Scarf, and it was Scarf, but then he was Weakness Policy Iron Boulder, which I thought was interesting. I didn't like Weakness Policy. I think I would have been Pasho Berry. I don't think it would have changed the outcome, but it would have helped. It definitely would have helped. I think you would have had a chance if you were Pasho Berry. Hippo was just standard, and then Lapras was also Assault Vest, Terra Fire, which I thought that was just kind of. It didn't. I don't know what the game plan was. I think if you were going to bring Lapras, it needed to be just a Water Absorb variant just to beat Palafin. I feel like that was pretty. That's what I expected. I just expected a variant to help with Palafin. And it wasn't. He had basically nothing for Palafin. I'm very confused about. It was Defog Mandibuzz too. Like, he just didn't have anything. Yeah, the Palafin was Taunt, Bulk Up, Jet Punch, Body Slam, which parried the Lottie on the first Body Slam, and all Lottie could do was get Draco off. Like, he just didn't bring anything for Palafin, and to be fair, he doesn't have much for Palafin. All he has is Torterra and Mimikyu. Torterra is awful here. Well, it's not awful, but it's bad here. And Mimikyu, I think, is what I would have brought. I would have brought a Wisp Mimikyu. And I think that was genuinely the only way you could have beaten Palafin in the end. He played a really solid early game, though. Like, he got... It was lead Keld, and Mike led Palafin like normal. And then he goes Komo on a Secret Sword. And then the Keldeo goes for Air Slash, and he fucking Iron Defenses. So this Komo is now at like 40%, and it got 0 value. So then he goes Grafai, expecting an Air Slash, and he Secret Swords, which is a crazy play. Or it wasn't a crazy play, but Air Slash probably killed Komo. And if he stayed in with Komo, he was going to get a +2 body press Huff. So that would have been awful. But I think he calls a switch, and or Air Slash just didn't kill, which is a chance. But I like to pretend like Air Slash was going to kill, and he made a crazy play with Secret Sword into Grafai, and it got Grafai down like 10%. But then the Mandibuzz gets poisoned by Fling Toxic Orb, which was really bad because later on it really matters for rocks, because rocks can go up with Iron Treads now because the Mandibuzz is poisoned. Yeah, he did a very good job with like managing his Pokemon, the opponent. But I don't think Danny like did much wrong. Like in terms of play, he played like 75% of the game perfectly. Like it was perfect. The issue came in the end when Palafin just could there's nothing on the team to beat Palafin. And not that he brought. He had nothing. It was a 100-0 matchup. The only thing, again, was the Wisp Mimikyu and like some Torterra set could probably beat it, like Iron Defense crap. But then it's like, I don't know. Palafin's broken, but like, they didn't bring anything for it. I think that's mostly, to be fair, I think that's mostly user error. Because he had bad options. He had bad options, but he had options. Like, Pasho could have been the defensive Lapras. Like, even the Monty brought could have been different sets. Because, like, you obviously don't want to necessarily bring a Wisp Mimikyu. It's pretty useless outside of everything. Outside of Palafin. But, like, even the Lapras could have just been Fizz Def. With Freeze Dry. And you can help beat it 1v1. Pasho Berry, Iron Boulder. Could have just set up, he had a chance to set up +2 on a Freeze Drying Ninetales. He could have just set up +2 and then maybe won. I mean, He maybe won. It depends how much it takes, but like I think he had options. He just didn't bring them, and he got swept by Palafin in the end. Yeah, it was up like 5. He was like 5-2, and then Palafin reverse sweeps him. He just didn't have anything. But I think that was mostly user error in this case. Next, Shadow Stitch. Yeah, this one, his opponent was, who was it? It was Muffin, Munted Muffin. So, this game was a little different, and I'm not going to say much on it because there's just not much to say. I think it came down to, they disconnected early, and it was like, they had like serious, not serious luck, but like a hurricane into Jolteon, and he had hit like ceaseless edges. I think he had hit a hurricane into Serp. He had just dodged a Focus Blast out of Zoroark too. Like, so much had happened, and like it was gonna be a pain in the ass to recreate, and it was just gonna be really bad. So it was just unrealistic. So then they ended up fucking around with the redo, and so I didn't really get. I didn't count the redo. I didn't even watch the redo because I was like, there's no point. They're just fucking around, and it ended up counting. Just I didn't want to count it towards PR. So I just counted what I saw in terms of prep, in terms of the early game, and I was very surprised that there was no Donphan nor Heatran. I was very surprised Serp came because I thought Serp was just bad here. I mean, there's a Zapdos, there's an Archaladon, there's a Rillaboom. I just thought there was so much for it that there's no reason to bring it. It was a Subseed Glare, I believe. I believe so. Like, there was just no reason to bring it, in my opinion. Weezing was very good here, but it had to wall. I didn't even go over up in his team. He had a Sneasler, Zapdos, Screamtail, Archaladon, Rillaboom, Crook, and like that was the big ones. He had like a Blastoise, but I don't care about that. But yeah, like Serp's just bad here. It loses Sneasler, Zapdos, Archaladon, Rillaboom, Scarf Crook, can Gunk Shot it. Like, it loses to everything. I don't understand why it came. If there was a Donphan in that spot, this game is a lot different. Even Tran could have been a notable bring here. I understand it, kind of, because I think you just have 6 Pokemon that are good here other than Tran. Like, I think every Pokemon could have game, except Zapdos. I don't think Zapdos was very good. Zapdos Galarian was very good here. Not into opposing Zapdos, not into... Yeah, that's really it. I just can't do anything Zapdos. But, like, maybe Pad's pivoting could have worked. I don't know. I just think Serp is really bad. I don't think Serp's a bad Pokemon. I think it's really bad here. And that's really what it boils down to. Like, I didn't see much of the match. I saw what I could, but in terms of what I saw, just Serp was bad. Then you get me. I didn't know whether to put me on here or not, but I figured I wanted to put me on here, so there you go. That's really it. I wanted to be on here, so I am. And if anyone ever joins me for PRs, then I'll be on here and they can actually gauge it off of this. But I have me at 10. I don't really know what to say, because I like said everything in the battle. But, like, the prep was good. I mean, the prep was there, genuinely. Whimsicott was a great bring. Cleavor, max speed with, like, Aerial Ace. Didn't work, but Cobalion lived. Veluza +2. KO'd back. Like, Akaberry, Goldingo almost clutched it down in the end. Like, I had the Pokemon. Just, I made, like, questionable plays. Like, the 3 layers of spikes went up like very early comparatively because it was a long game, so they went up early, and it didn't mostly matter, but it definitely did matter because like my most important Pokemon, Whimsicott, because Whimsicott was definitely my most important Pokemon here. It had boots, so I didn't care, and like Cleavor also didn't get boots or had boots, but he made a Wisp play into the Dunsparce that I really didn't expect. I really didn't expect it. So I expected a Tinglu, and I doubled, and I got burnt, and that was really bad. That's really it. I mean, that was the biggest misplay. Thundurus, I also could not figure out the item, so I had to play around it a lot, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the Pokemon to pivot around it. 'Cause I didn't know he was Specs. But like I probably should have assumed it was Specs, just given that that the he wasn't Boots, he wasn't Leftovers, and he wasn't Scarf at that point. Once I figured it out, so what else is he gonna be? He's so clearly Specs, but I was scared of not being Specs and losing my Wincon. So I lost like momentum. It really came down at the end to I could have Thunder Waved the Arcanine, but I was worried about him taking a Thunder Wave. A, I could have missed. And B, the Calc had Hex into Grass Knot 100% killing on uninvested, and I figured he had some investment, but I didn't think he had like he had like 100 investment. I didn't expect that much. I expected like 40 or something like that. Just enough because I expected him to have enough speed to outspeed Max Speed Goldengo, and he just didn't. Or Max Speed Cleavor, and I was very surprised to see that he wasn't. Because Cleavor's always gonna be Max Speed here, because it needs to outspeed tie with Quack. So there's no way that Arcanine's not gonna be max speed or enough speed for that, right? So I think he may have been, but he was also like he didn't have much attack actually. Like he wasn't even max attack, and that was really the killer because I think he just took away from attack and put it in HP, which is tragic. And to be fair, it makes sense. Flare Blitz Head Smash hits most of this team. The only ones it doesn't hit, I mean, it hits everything for neutral or super effective. But like the only things that actually like can take it to an extent are Sandy Shocks and Slowking, which I didn't bring Slowking, and Sandy Shocks died. So yeah. But ended up coming down to like a 50-50-ish roll. Like it was about 50-50. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was either, I don't remember. Because I needed Hex into Grass Knot to KO. Because if I Thunder Wave A, if I miss, I lose. But B, he just switches out to Ting Lu, and then Arcanine still lives at Grass Knot.